morning, friends. We come to you this morning to bring announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after viewing our program. The family of Mother Catherine Jackson Spears of Ashburn, Georgia, the family of Mrs. Sophia Latrice Smith Sutton of Vienna, Georgia, the family of Mr. Sonny Reuben Butts of Cordele, Georgia, the family of Mr. Matthew Curtis Ford of Cordele, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. Mrs. Sophia Latrice Smith Sutton, age 40, of 428 North 5th Street, Vienna, Georgia, died Friday, October 29th at the Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Sophia Latrice Smith Sutton was held Saturday, November 6th, at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, Port-au-Cochere in Cordele, Georgia. Her pastor, Reverend Dr. Bobby G. West, pastor of the Bethel Baptist Church, officiated. The burial followed at the Vienna City Cemetery in Vienna, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted husband, Mr. Timothy Sutton II of Vienna, Georgia, her loving and caring sons, Mr. Rashad Griffin and Mr. Sonoris Sutton, both of Vienna, Georgia, her loving and devoted mother, Ms. Jeanette Smith of Vienna, Georgia, her caring brother, Mr. Shamar Peterson, and his wife, Mrs. Aisha Peterson of Byron, Georgia, her loving sisters, Mrs. Shanae Green and her husband, Mr. Kerry Green of Americus, Georgia, Miss Andrea Blackshear and her husband, Mr. LaTravis Blackshear, Miss Tiffany Smith of Athens, Georgia, and Miss Nicole Smith of Greensboro, Georgia. A loving aunt, Miss Carol Killings and her husband, Mr. Arthur Killings of Vienna, Georgia, a beloved uncle, Mr. Stanford Smith of Vienna, Georgia. Her loving mother-in-law, Mrs. Mary Burke of Vienna, Georgia, her beloved father-in-law, Mr. Timothy Sutton, and his wife, Mrs. Mamie Sutton of Cordele, Georgia, her nieces and nephews, a host of other aunts and uncles, nieces, many relatives, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive Mrs. Sophia Latrice Smith Sutton, age 40, of 428 North 5th Street, Vienna, Georgia. Mother Catherine Jackson Spears, age 94, of 3042 Ireland Road, Ashburn, Georgia, died Wednesday, October 27th at the Crisp Regional Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mother Catherine Jackson Spears was held Wednesday, November 3rd at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, Port-au-Cochere in Cordele, Georgia. Dr. K.M. Williams, pastor of the Greater Mars Tabernacle Baptist Church, officiated. Her beloved son, Reverend William Spears, delivered the eulogy. The burial followed at the Westview Memorial Gardens in Ashburn, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Deacon Albert Spears Jr. and Reverend Robert L. Spears and his wife, Reverend Vera Spears, and Deacon Eddie Spears, all of Ashburn, Georgia. Reverend William Spears and his wife, Mrs. Marvis Spears of Albany, Georgia. Minister Larry Spears and his wife, Mrs. Lula Spears of Kenosha, Wisconsin. Chairman Deacon Leon Spears and his wife, Minister Kathy Spears of Cordele, Georgia. Minister Leroy Spears and his wife, Mrs. Lisa Spears of Loganville, Georgia. Mr. Donald Spears and his wife, Minister Melissa Spears of Arabi, Georgia. Ms. Cynthia S. Clark and her husband, Mr. Willie Clark of Arabi, Georgia. Mr. Calvin Spears and his wife, Mrs. Sydney Spears of Dallas, Georgia. And Ms. Maybelline Spears of Arabi, Georgia. Mr. Donald Spears and his wife, Minister Melissa Spears of Arabi, Georgia. A host of grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. Her sister-in-law, Ms. Carrie Lou Spears of Atlanta, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many loving friends survive. Mother Catherine Jackson Spears, age 94, of 3042 Ireland Road, Ashburn, Georgia. Mr. Zani Reuben Butts, age 78, of 309 West 14th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Sunday, October 31st at the Cordele Health and Rehabilitation Center in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Zani Reuben Butts was held Saturday, November 6th at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, Port-au-Cochere in Cordele, Georgia. Reverend Joseph Atkins officiated. Survivors include his loving and caring children, Mr. Zani L. Butts of Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Troy Butts of Baltimore, Maryland, Ms. Kema Tracy Butts Daniel of Dallas, Texas, and Ms. Khadidra Hall of Jamaica, New York. 6 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, his loving sisters, Mrs. Melba Ruth Carter, Mrs. Jessie Mae Sanders, Mrs. Louise Burgess, and Ms. Lucindy Gordon, all of Cordele, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, to include Mr. Sammy Lee Butts, Mr. Rico Carter, Mr. James Carter, and Mr. Nicholas Carter, all of Dallas, Texas. Mr. Darrell Carter and his wife, Mrs. Shay Carter, Ms. Doris Dennis, and Ms. Lily Brown, all of Cordele, Georgia. A host of cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive Mr. Zani Reuben Butts, age 78, of 309 West 14th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Matthew Curtis Ford, age 45, of 602 West 5th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Wednesday, November 3rd at his residence. The private memorial service for Mr. Matthew Curtis Ford was held Saturday, November 6th at the Mount Olive Church Cemetery in Warwick, Georgia. His beloved brother, Reverend William Gain Ford, officiated. Survivors include his loving and devoted sisters, Mrs. Brenda Faye Parks, and her husband, Mr. Christian Parks, of Branson, Missouri, Mrs. Miranda Woodall and her husband, Mr. John Woodall, Mrs. Christy Tooks and her husband, Mr. Kedra Tooks, and Ms. Lakeisha Ford, all of Cordele, Georgia. His caring and loyal brothers, Mr. George Ford and Mr. George Ford Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Deborah Ford of Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Wayne Ford and his wife, Mrs. Lonnie Ford of Ashburn, Georgia. The Reverend William Gain Ford and his wife, Mrs. Renee Ford of Perry, Georgia. Mr. Isaac Ford and his wife, Mrs. Connie Ford of Brea, California. Mr. Timothy Ford Sr. of Mobile, Alabama. Mr. Joseph Ford Sr. and his wife, Mrs. Tanya Ford. Mr. Nathan Ford and Mr. Keith Ford and his wife, Mrs. Amanda Ford, all of Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Christopher Ford of Valdosta, Georgia. His aunts and uncles, Mr. David Williams and his wife, Mrs. Dorothy Williams, Mrs. Mary Nance, Mr. Willie James Johnson, Mrs. Mary Pounds, and Ms. Rose Ford, all of Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Ethel Atkins of Arabi, Georgia, and Mrs. Margaret Edwards of Jacksonville, Florida. Many nieces and nephews, a host of cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive Mr. Matthew Curtis Ford, age 45, of 602 West 5th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. Again, the family of Mother Catherine Jackson Spears of Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Sophia Latrice Smith Sutton of Vienna, Georgia. The family of Mr. Zani Reuben Butts of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. Matthew Curtis Ford of Cordele, Georgia would like to thank all of their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you is their prayer. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Deacon Jose Sanders, age 78, of 2895 Lily Road, Vienna, Georgia, died Tuesday, November 2nd at the Atrium Health Navicent Peach Hospital in Byron, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted children, Miss Jana Leggett, Mr. Jumark Sanders, and his companion, Miss Michelle Lawson, all of Vienna, Georgia. Miss Chandrika Royal and her husband, Mr. Tremikas Royal of Warner Robins, Georgia. Miss Shanikia Sanders and her companion, Mr. Stalithio Turner of Vienna, Georgia. Ms. Elizabeth Stubbins of Vienna, Georgia, and Ms. Shonda Sutton of Jacksonville, Florida. 19 loving grandchildren, 13 great-grandchildren, his devoted nieces and nephews, Miss Jackie Sanders, Miss Rosetta Leggett, Miss Rebecca Sanders, Mr. Louis Jerome Sanders, and Mrs. Jeanette Fields. A host of other relatives and many loving friends survive. Deacon Jose Lee Sanders, age 78, of 2895 Lily Road, Vienna, Georgia. The funeral service for Deacon Jose Lee Sanders will be held today, Sunday, November 7th, graveside at the Little Poplar Spring Church Cemetery in Byronville, Georgia. The funeral service will be held at 2:00 p.m. Reverend Coley Clark Jr., pastor of the Zion Grove Baptist Church, Montezuma, Georgia, will officiate. Come back to me. Something's not right. It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcement. Sister Annie Louise Ford Ray, age 66, First Lady of the beautiful Zion Missionary Baptist Church of 2129 South Joe Wright Drive, Cordele, Georgia, died early this morning, Sunday, November 7th, at her residence. Survivors include her loving and devoted husband, Pastor Lorinda Ray of Cordele, Georgia, her children, grandchildren, and a host of other relatives, and many, many loving friends survive. Directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of these arrangements during this week. Friends, as always, remind you concerning advanced funeral planning that's available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. If you have questions or concern regarding advanced funeral planning, we invite you to give us a call that we might be able to sit down and discuss this information with you. We'd also like to remind you that whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. So please give us a call, and we'll be so happy to set up a time that we'll be able to sit down and discuss these things with you. We have a licensed insurance agent on staff that will be able to answer any questions that you might have regarding advanced funeral planning as well as your insurance needs. And now for announcements. The New Poplar Spring Baptist Church invites everyone to join them this morning for their morning worship service that begins at 9:45 a.m. You may join them via conference call by calling 253-993-3761. New Poplar Spring invites you to join them today for their, that was Saturday, for their family movie time. Pastor Johnny Dean is the pastor. We're experiencing some technical difficulties, so we will come back to with our announcements this morning. Christ Chapel Unadilla Church extends to each of you a cordial invitation to come out and share with them as they will be hosting their Breakthrough to Excellence workshop for church administrators. This will be held on Saturday, November 13th, beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. Ms. Jeanette Taylor is the pastor relief trainer, and she will be hosting this event. As we continue to experience some technical difficulties, I'm going to ask the camera operators to bring it back to me here, and I will continue with the announcements without doing our graphics. As we continue this morning with our announcements, the Spring Hill Baptist Church invites everyone to drive up and worship with them each first and third Sunday. Sunday morning worship service today begins at 11 o'clock a.m. Sister Mary Ann Lewis is the secretary. Deacon Sam Anderson is the chairman of deacons. Reverend Choice Cobb Sr. is the pastor. Again, we'd like to remind you concerning Christ Chapel Unadilla, the weekly food pantry is open every Saturday from 9 a.m. until 12 o'clock noon. So they invite you to come by and pick up items there, Christ Chapel Unadilla. The Ebenezer Baptist Church service will be held via conference call. The dial-in number for worship service for Ebenezer is 346-248-7799. The access code is 228-890-9553. The worship service begins at 11 o'clock a.m. Deacon Morris McClendon is the chairman of deacons. Reverend Samuel Stokes is the pastor. The Macedonia Baptist Church of the Drayton community will have an in-house worship service today, Sunday, November 7th, beginning at 9:30 a.m. Everyone has a cordial invitation to worship with them, and please remember that social distancing will be practiced. Deacon Henley Bryan Jr. is the chairman of deacons. The Greater Mars Tabernacle Baptist Church extends you a very cordial invitation to worship with them in their conference call schedule as follows. Sunday morning worship service at 9 o'clock a.m. Tuesday midday prayer conference will begin at 12 o'clock noon. Thursday prayer meeting and Bible study at 6 o'clock p.m. The call-in number for these services for the conference call is 229-329-7611. Again, that number is 229-329-7611. Mother Lucille Shazer is the church mother. Deacon Arthur L. Parker is the chairman of deacons. Dr. K.M. Williams is the pastor. The Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church invites everyone to pull up and praise with them each Sunday morning, beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. They are located at 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North, Cordele. Reverend Gregory Williams is the pastor. The St. King Baptist Church extends a cordial invitation to everyone to worship with them each first and third Sunday, with Sunday morning worship service beginning at 8 o'clock a.m. They also invite you to share with them during an hour of power worship service at 9 o'clock a.m. Sunday school begins at 10:15 a.m. Reverend Woody Burnham is the pastor. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church Cordele conference call schedule is as follows. Sunday morning, worship service at 10 o'clock a.m. Prayer meeting and Bible study is held Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 o'clock noon. Bible study, is held each Wednesday at 5 o'clock p.m. The conference call-in number is 339-209-6419. Deacon Joe Wedges is the chairman of deacons. Dr. Dan James III is the pastor. The Gethsemane Baptist Church outdoor worship service on the grounds of Gethsemane will be held each Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Everyone is asked to please wear a mask. The Gethsemane Baptist Church reminds you that they will be serving their Thanksgiving dinner to the public on Saturday, November 20th from 11:30 a.m. until. This will be a drive-through outreach ministry for the church. Deacon Johnny Wilson is the chairman of deacons. Mother Mary Butler is the church mother. Reverend Cecil Straughter is the pastor. The Shady Road Baptist Church worship service every second and fourth Sunday with weekly Bible study is held each Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Sister Lovey Wheeler is the church mother. Deacon Bobby Barner is the chairman of deacons. Reverend Kelvin Drake Sr. is the pastor. The New Oak Grove Baptist Church will have in-house worship service today, beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. Everyone has a cordial invitation to worship with them. The Mount Calvary Baptist Church extends to each of you a cordial invitation to worship with them via Facebook Live today, beginning at 10:30 a.m. Deacon Leon Spears is the chairman of deacons. Mother Evelyn Lewis is the church mother. Reverend Isaac H. Owens is the pastor. The St. Paul Baptist Church of Albany, Georgia, will have pastor's installation service for Reverend Calvin F. Rollins. The service will be held on the grounds of the church on Sunday, November 14th at 1:30 p.m. Reverend Derek Dumas of the Greater Lizzieboro Baptist Church, Macon, will be in charge of the service. St. Paul reminds you also that they will have cleaning of the church cemetery on Saturday, November 13th, beginning at 9 o'clock a.m. Refreshments will be served. Mrs. Kira Whitlock, pastor secretary. Deacon Walter Jenks Jr. is the chairman of deacons. Reverend Calvin F. Rollins is the pastor. The Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church Pre-Pastor 17th Anniversary Gospel Concert will be held on Saturday, November 20th at 4 o'clock p.m. Our program will be the EMBC Voices of Praise, Stacy and the Anointed Voices, and Georgia-owned Heavenly. This program will be held at 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North in Cordele. Emmanuel extends a very cordial invitation for everyone to worship with them in the 17th anniversary celebration for Pastor Gregory and Minister Denise Williams, and this will be held on Sunday, November 21st at 10 o'clock a.m. Dr. Deanne Holsey, pastor of the Jerusalem Baptist Church, Ellerville, Georgia, will be the guest speaker. Everyone has a cordial invitation to attend. Reverend Gregory Williams is the pastor. The MD Whitus Medical Institute, located at 401 North 15th Street in Cordele, reminds everyone that they will be administering the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine on Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. for ages 12 and over. Please drop by, please call them, and they'll be so happy to give you further information regarding the vaccine. Dr. Matthew W. Whitus, MD. Wilcox County Head Start is taking applications for preschoolers. For more information, please call Ms. Donna Jenkins at 229-365-2341 or 478-922-4464. West Central Georgia Community Action Council Energy Assistance Program registration for the general public will be on December 1st. From 8 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. The call-in numbers are 478-472-3607 or 855-473-9423. The sign-up site will be at the Cordele Farmers Market for drive-through services, and they ask that you will please remain in your vehicles. Again, this will be on December 1st for the general public. I'm not sure if our graphics are working yet, but we would also like to continue this morning to remind you that coming up with the election, the runoff election to be held on Tuesday, November 30th, we would like to remind everyone to let your voice be heard. Runoff election, and anyone who would like to request an absentee ballot, you may go to and look for your action-packed canvassers to be in your neighborhood from November 9th through November 19th. Rides will be provided to the drop-off absentee ballots at the election office Monday through Fridays and you may call 229-234-0590. The deadline for all absentee ballot applications is November 19th. And again, we would like to just take this opportunity to thank each of you who were so kind, who got out and cast your votes in the election this past week. We need you to go back once again on Tuesday, November 30th. Your vote and your support is greatly appreciated. I thank you for your continuous prayers, and we remind you again to please get out and vote on Tuesday, November 30th. This is another opportunity for us to make a major change in our community, and we need your support. Tuesday, November 30th for our runoff election. Early voting for the runoff election will be held on beginning on November 22nd through the 24th. Please make note of those dates as we will continue to share this information with each of you. That concludes our announcements for this morning as we continue now this morning with our dedications. Our first selection this morning is dedicated in loving memory of Mrs. Patricia Talbert Warren, who departed this life November 1st, 2011. Dedication requested by her children, grandchildren, her parents, and the entire Talbert and Warren families. Gone, but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mr. George Westbrook Jr., who departed this life November 2nd, 1992. Dedication requested by Mrs. Martha Ruth Westbrook, his children, Mr. Frank and Mrs. Deborah Walker Westbrook, Elder Helen and Brother Melton Dunlap, Bishop George and Minister Tronda Westbrook, Mr. Willie King and Mrs. Lindell Westbrook, Minister Gloria and Brother Norris Mathis, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and the entire Westbrook family. In loving memory of Mrs. Elizabeth Fletcher Brown, who would have celebrated her birthday on November 3rd. Dedication requested by her mother, Mrs. Minnie Fletcher, and the entire family. In loving memory of Mr. Wayne Bailey, who would have celebrated his birthday on November 4th. Dedication requested by his loving wife, Mrs. Catherine Bailey, the Tukes, Tripp, and Bivens family. Precious memories linger still. In loving memory of Mr. John Patrick Jr., who departed this life November 4th, 2017. Dedication requested by his mother, Mother Ida Bell Patrick, and the entire Patrick family. In loving memory of Mr. Rufus Hoskins, who would have celebrated his birthday November 7th. Dedication requested by the family. In loving memory of Mr. Michael C. West, who would have celebrated his birthday on November 7th. Dedication requested by his parents, grandparents, the entire family, and all of the staff and management of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home as we pause and reflect upon the life of Mr. Michael C. West. In loving memory of Mrs. Minnie Felton, who would have celebrated her birthday on November 7th. Dedication requested by the Jones, Coley, and Felton families. In loving memory of Mrs. Mary Catherine Applin, who departed this life November 15, 2012. Also in loving memory of her daughter, Ms. Frederica Lewis, who departed this life November 15th. Precious memories linger still as we pause and remember their lives. We would like to take this time to wish a very special happy 93rd birthday to Mother Lenora McNeil, who celebrated her birthday on Wednesday, November 3rd. Dedication requested by the entire family and the Cordial Institutional Church of God in Christ family. Elder Darrell and Mrs. Leggett and the entire church family pause at this time to say happy 93rd birthday to Mother Lenora McNeil. God bless you as you celebrate another year. Happy birthday to Mr. John L. Hamilton, who celebrated his birthday on Thursday, November 4th. Dedication requested by his wife and the Hamilton and Rogers family. Happy birthday to Miss Rosa Zanders, who is celebrating her birthday today, Sunday, November 7th. Dedication requested by the Zanders family. Happy birthday to Miss Ruthie Griffin, who will celebrate her birthday on Monday, November 8th. Dedication requested by her husband and the entire Hamilton and Rogers family. Our first selection this morning.
Somebody that knows been good. You done done something for somebody in this place tonight. I ain't gotta ask nobody to be good. I already know he's been good to me. And you know, I was just watching one of those programs on TV today when it says adopt a little child overseas, and then they show the little children up on the screen, and some is too big in one place and too little in another. Some dehydrated, can't even make tears to cry. Some malnutrition done sit in and they can't even stand up on their own little legs. And then when I think about how my children get up, go down in the kitchen and pick it and choosing what they want to eat, I said, thank you! Give it to him. Go on and give it to him. Whether you know it or not, we already owe it to him. For all those many years we went and didn't even stop to think about who was doing what. We owe it to him. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For my legs, thank you. For my feet, thank you. Somebody can't do this, thank you. Sometimes it looks like the harder you try, the harder things get for you. And the same one, you go all out of your way to try and help. You find out that's the one on the other side of town right now, already putting your name out on the highway and out on the head. But you know, when you already know somebody don't like you, it just don't bother you so bad when they do something mean to you. But the one that stand up in your face, one that shake your hand.
Thank you. As we continue this morning, we're still having some problems with our graphics. So as we continue this morning, we would like to again congratulate ADC Brent R. Powell on retiring from the United States Navy after serving 21 years. He retired from the Naval Air Station based in Jacksonville, Florida, as an aviation machinist with the rank of Chief Petty Officer. He retired on October 29, 2021. He completed his stateside tours in Norfolk, Virginia, New Jersey, and several tours in Jacksonville, Florida. Chief Powell is a native of Cordial, Georgia. He's the son of the late Rebecca Powell Rockwell and Archie Ford of Oklahoma. He is the grandson of the late Minister Isaac Powell Sr., the late Mother Bessie M. Powell, and the late Mother Elizabeth P. Ford. Chief Powell is married to Alicia Powell, and he has 3 sons, Laren Bryan, United States Navy, Christopher and Brian Powell. Chief Powell, we salute you and thank you for your service to our country. Again, we congratulate United States Navy retired ADC Brent R. Powell. Congratulations, and again, we thank you for your years of service to our country. Again, we would like to wish a very special happy 93rd birthday to Mother Lenore McNeil. Happy birthday, and we pray that God will continue to bless you as you celebrate this very special time. Again, this dedication comes from her entire family as she celebrates her birthday on Wednesday, November 3rd. Dedication requested by the entire family and the Institutional Church of God in Christ church family, Elder Darrell and Mrs. Leggett. Happy birthday, Mother Lenore McNeil. As we continue this morning with our dedications, our next selection this morning is dedicated to Ms. Dorothy Coleman, the Johnson family, Mr. Leon Walker, Mr. Samuel McCluster, Ms. Sheila Tharp, for Mrs. Martha West, Ms. Murtis Evans, Ms. Lenora Lofton. The selection is dedicated to Ms. Julia May Turner, Mr. and Mrs. Julius Deriso, Ms. Mary Lee Holmes, Mr. Robert Brown, Mr. Willie B. Robinson, Ms. May Francis Maynard, Mr. Tremel Townsend, Mother Evelyn B. Lewis, Ms. Darkita Hunt, for the Wilburn family, Mr. Roy Dawson, Ms. Annie G. Harvey, Mr. John Reese, Mr. Contavian Addy, Mother Easter May Byron, Mrs. Nethy Harvey, also for Deacon Lonnie Clayton, Mrs. Ida B. Walters, Ms. Maddie Mays, Reverend Joel Butts, Mother Grace Patrick, Mr. George and Mrs. Josephine Lawrence, Ms. Annie Ruth Jordan, Ms. Mary Frances David, Ms. Devin Brown and family, for Ms. Burl Patrick and family, Mother William McGill and family, Ms. Debbie Cross and family, for Mr. and Mrs. Judge Glenn and family, Ms. Shalonda Donaldson and family, Mr. Justin Colbert and family, for Ms. Loretta Fields and family, Ms. Naisha Davis and family, Ms. Jacora Moore and family, for the Solomon family, the Armstrong family, for Mrs. Esther Johnson and family, for Mother Evelyn Lewis and family. And again, we say happy birthday to her, the church mother of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, and to her family as well, for Mr. Ricky Hardeman and family, Mr. Philip Stemridge and family, for the Lofton family, Reverend and Mrs. Douglas Parham and family, also for Mr. and Mrs. A.B. Levant and family, Deacon and Mrs. Norman Fields and family, Mr. and Mrs. Danny Jackson and family, for Ms. Donna Cobb and family, Ms. Minnie Fletcher and family, for Ms. Geraldine Pickens and family, Ms. Jackie Lattimore and family, for Ms. Vivian Daniels and family, Mr. William and Mrs. Brenda Jones and family, Mr. Keith and Ms. Carrie Dexter and family, Ms. Keandria Lane and family, Mr. Don and Mrs. Cynthia White and family. This selection is also being dedicated to Ms. Mary Jean Green and family, for Mr. Maurice Sanford and family, Mr. Derek Felton and family, for Ms. Shania Gaston and family, Ms. Valerie Relaford and family, Ms. Kyria Evans and family, for Ms. Gwendolyn Westbrook and family, Mr. and Mrs. Dravian McGill and family, for Ms. Lamika Moses and family, for Mr. Lonzo Cross Jr. and family, for Mr. Will Owens Quarterman and family, for Ms. Louise Quarterman and family, Ms. Victoria Coleman and family, Ms. Jasmine Glover and family, Mr. Richard Glover and family, for Ms. Jennifer Mills and family, Ms. Darius Sutton and family, for Ms. Annette Mumphrey and family. This selection this morning is being dedicated to Mr. Kendrell Adams and family, for Mr. Malcolm and Mrs. Azaline Kellogg and family, for Mr. Levester Hunt and family, for Ms. Deborah Hunt and family. Also this morning, the selection is being dedicated to Ms. Janet Walker and family, Ms. Jeanette Trice and family, Ms. Jadleria Walker and family, Ms. Tanya Walker and family. Our next selection this morning.
Jesus,
As we continue this morning, we would like to also dedicate this selection to all of our friends who are joining us via Facebook on our J.W. Williams Facebook page. You may watch us there. We dedicate this selection this morning also to Dr. Ruby Jackson, to all those who are watching, Sister Martha Hardison, Sister Deborah Mitchell. We dedicate this selection to you, to my brother, Mr. Stephen Owens, who is watching us via Facebook. We dedicate the selection to Miss Leslie Odom Pope, Dr. Bambi Hayes, Miss Carol Fox, the Colson family, Miss Bernita West, and all of our friends who are joining us. We dedicate this selection to Mr. Tony Smith, who are joining us from various areas of of the world, United States, via Facebook. We thank you for tuning in each Sunday morning to us as well. We're so happy that we're able to share with you many of the things that are going on in our community by way of Facebook as well. So we thank you also for joining in with us this morning. It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcement. Deacon Jose Lee Sanders, age 78, of 2895 Lily Road, Vienna, Georgia, died Tuesday, November 2nd at the Atrium Health Navicent Peach Hospital in Byron, Georgia. The funeral service for Deacon Jose Lee Sanders will be held today, Sunday, November 7th at 2:00 p.m. at the Little Poplar Spring Baptist Church Cemetery in Byronville, Georgia. Reverend Coley Clark Jr., pastor of the Zion Grove Baptist Church, Montezuma, will officiate. Sister Annie Louise Ford Ray, age 66, First Lady of the beautiful Zion Missionary Baptist Church of 2129 South Joe Wright Drive, Cordele, Georgia, died early this morning, Sunday, November 7th, at her residence. The funeral service for First Lady, Sister Annie Louise Ford Ray, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of these arrangements during this week. Our next and final selection this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones were laid to rest during the past week. The family of Mother Catherine Jackson Spears of Ashburn, Georgia, the family of Mrs. Sophia Latrice Smith Sutton of Vienna, Georgia, the family of Mr. Zani Reuben Butts of Cordele, Georgia, the family of Mr. Matthew Curtis Ford of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is also dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of Deacon Jose Lee Sanders of Vienna, Georgia. The family of First Lady Sister Annie Louise Ford Ray of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to all of our sick and shut-ins, to all of our patients in the local and surrounding hospitals, nursing homes, rehabilitation centers, to our ministers and their spouses and family, to our retired educators, to the men and women serving in the armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program each and every Sunday morning. It is a pleasure for us to bring this program to you. Our program this morning is dedicated in love and memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. We dedicate our program this morning also to our president, CEO, Deacon and Mrs. Arthur L. Parker, and to their son Jai, and to each of you who have tuned in this morning. I'd also like to take this opportunity to again thank each of you who went out to vote this past week on Tuesday, November the 2nd, for our election that we had. And we encourage you to be reminded of the runoff election that will be coming up on Tuesday, November 30th. Tuesday, November 30th is our runoff election. We invite you to get back out to the polls again. We need your vote, and we welcome your support and your continuous prayers. We'd also like to remind you that coming up on Wednesday, November 24th, The Collard Green Coalition will be here in Cordele. The second annual Collard Green Coalition will be here, and farmers will be donating collard greens and all the fixings to those free of charge that will come. We will get more information to you regarding this and concerning this as well. But again, we remind you coming up to take advantage of the opportunity with early voting, to cast your ballot, and to be reminded, if you would like an absentee ballot, canvassers will be in our area beginning on Tuesday, November the 9th, and you're invited to get your absentee ballots, and they will be so happy to help you get them completed and then take them to have them dropped off for you as well, that you may take you to that, you may get them dropped off as well. So please remember this as we're coming up to the upcoming election, runoff election that will be held on Tuesday, November 30th. Polls will open at 7 o'clock a.m. and close at 7 o'clock p.m. We encourage each of you to get back out and cast your vote. Our program this morning, once again, is dedicated to each of you who have tuned in each Sunday morning. We thank you so much for joining us. We do apologize for the technical difficulties that we've experienced this morning, but we thank you for tuning in and we welcome you. We also like to remind you that if you have announcements or dedications that you would like for us to use on our program, that you may drop them by the funeral home Monday through Friday, between the hours of 9 and 5, and before 12 o'clock noon on Saturday. If you would like to fax your announcement to us, you may do that as well by sending to us at 229-273-5111. Again, that number is 229-273-5111. If you would like to email it, you may email it to us at jwwilliamsfh@bellsouth.net. Again, we thank each of you for tuning in, and we want to say to all of our area churches, continue to support your churches financially as well as through spiritual prayer, that we may continue as we work our way through this pandemic. If you have not taken the opportunity to get vaccinated, please do so. We're so looking forward to being able to come together and celebrate, but we know that can only take place when we all do the things that we need to do to make it where we can come together. We pray God's blessings upon each of you. Until next Sunday morning, our final selection this morning.
The song that Daddy used to sing. Somebody might say, well, we get tired of talking about Daddy. I don't know about nobody else, but I'm going to always say something about my daddy and my mama. 1976, a tornado came, blew our house away. We lost everything that we had. A few weeks later, we did a program somewhere down in South Mississippi. I think it was down in Macomb, Mississippi. They wanted to raise the offering for Daddy. Daddy told him that's all right. Don't worry about it. I never will forget that proud look on Daddy's dad a long time. I never will forget that other verse. The dad is dead. He said, when my work down here is done, and my raise have been won.
Yes, I'm going to walk. Oh, that will keep my feet. Oh, child.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning. In your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.